Greetings, viewers and subscribers. This is BVI Channel 1, where we tell you nothing but undiluted truth. APC Wahala don't start. But not as you have expected, that it will come from aggrieved members of APC who are victims of the charade, the show of shame in the name of primaries they just concluded at all levels. Or even the opposition, as we all thought that definitely APC will get better, but not from these places we expected. Lo, it is coming from the court after the court judgment have scattered the mischievous enterprise after numerous INEC bedematic romance with APC leadership led by Tinubu and gazetted at the National Assembly led by Aggrieved to mastermind the most fraudulent, worst electoral reform in history. Now, after their game, it seems that just one court judgment has scattered it. You need to listen to this very one, and they come back.
Somna, the Federal High Court, in its judgment, talking about Justice M.G. Umar, says INEC's time frame imposed, underlying that word, imposed on political parties, that imposition is inconsistent with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2026, referred to Section 31 and all the other sections. But now we've just heard authoritatively from INEC that it will appeal this judgment. How does this serve, number one, public good? How does it serve this democracy if INEC goes ahead to appeal this? Should INEC appeal in the first place?
Right, thank you so much, Ngozi. What's happening actually reminds me of the challenges the nation went through in 2007. There was that classical case, Amechi versus INEC, and then there was also that Action Congress versus INEC, which went way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court had very harsh words for INEC, very, very harsh words. First of all, the Supreme Court was asking, including in other cases that we've heard, why INEC will continue to side with a particular political party and a candidate when it's supposed to be an arbiter in a case. And then also on the issues of imposition of candidates, it was very clear. The Supreme Court said that what the other courts had ruled in Amechi versus INEC, that INEC lacks powers to impose candidates and all of that. In this instance now, you'll be asking, in whose interest will INEC be going to court? Right. To go and serve at this point in time. Because, this, whatever has happened now actually favors the political parties. INEC is the regulator of political parties, and the political parties serve public good. Right. So whose interest is INEC serving if they are going to do this? Well, we are fully waiting to actually hear what exactly that they want to do. But the constitutional provisions are very clear, and the provisions of the Electoral Act are very clear. Right. If you have 120 days before an election by which political parties must submit their candidates, their credentials, and all of that, and the election is January 16th, why will you now bring the deadline from January 16th instead of September, and then you now bring it down to May? First of all, the submission of register, and also the holding of, campaigns, that's primaries and all of that. Now, if you take a look at it, you will discover that between May, June, July, August, September, you still have 4 months. So why is INEC in a rush? Well, I would say that maybe the reason why INEC was in a rush is because of the failure of the National Assembly to pass the Electoral Act much more on time.
So they also take part of the blame.
Yes, the National Assembly takes part of the blame. Because that Electoral Act was supposed to have been out by December. So that INEC could be able to plan its logistics very well.
Yes.
Printing of ballot papers and all of that. But unfortunately, that didn't come out on time. And that's why you see that even the presidency itself actually failed Nigerians, because some of the provisions being contentious now are because the presidency did not, pay due diligence before signing the Electoral Act. The president was too hasty to sign the Electoral Act without having his team to sit down and actually go through it. Ask yourself, why did the late President Muhammadu Buhari, refuse to sign the Electoral Act for about 3 times, sending it back over? Because he had a legal team that were backing him, giving him ideas, saying this and that. And I think the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice has failed the nation and failed Mr. President by not giving him proper advice. Because if we have 120 days, which the Electoral Act clearly states, you will now wonder why INEC is rushing. And then you also have 90 days window. Why are we rushing? And then the classical interpretation of what the judges have said here also is that INEC does not have the powers to stop campaigns 48 hours before election day. So a lot of things will be unraveled by this judgment. And I think instead of INEC appealing this, they should just go back to the archives and see what the Supreme Court justices had said about court judgments, and the INEC is purely an administrative entity. It is not a judicial entity, and neither is it an executive entity. So you are supposed to be in public service, and when there are judgments that come out in public good, you follow it. Now, this has opened a Pandora box. A whole lot of politicians will now have to go to other political parties if they want, because you are no longer tied to stay in one political party. And that's why the opposition members, you would have heard a lot of them say that the APC was in a rush to bring this Electoral Act to fruition, because the majority of the provisions actually favor the APC. And with the rush by Mr. President to assent to it, it looks like everything, favored the APC. But now that we have this open, politicians can defect to other political parties because they still have till September before the digital register can be submitted to INEC, and then before the processes can start. But in this instance, there's one thing that's left.
I think this judgment has exposed one area where we have missed the point as a country. The Constitution donated powers to INEC to organize elections, to regulate political parties, to make rules and regulations that guide political parties, and to ensure that elections are free, fair, and credible. It didn't donate, it didn't delegate that power to the National Assembly. If the National Assembly, we made a mistake by allowing the National Assembly to make laws to regulate elections. How? Why? How possible? When the Constitution has already given INEC the power to organize elections, it was not supposed to be subject to any other authority.
Good. Nobody needs explanation or more analysis for you to understand what this man have just explained as a result of the judgment coming from the court regarding this. But I have mixed feeling. One of my heart is jumping. Oh, hallelujah. Finally, APC had fallen in his own trap. But my people, beware. I'm not going to dive deep on this. Just relax and watch the next video where I'll be exposing the dangers of PDP. Yes, PDP, not People's Democratic Party, but political displaced people. You get the point? These are the PDP I'll be talking about in the next video, because I don't lose sleep regarding this judgment. It be me somehow like say na part of their plan. But you just need to relax and think through what you just heard with respect to this very court judgment, because I'll be explaining it further in the next video. While that is coming, please ensure you follow us on all our social media platforms. Subscribe on this channel where you'll be getting heads up to date regarding the political activities in Nigeria. My name is Senator Peters, your advocate for good governance. I want to have your opinion. How do you feel about this judgment that have thrown open the wide gate of political parties, that now politicians can escape APC impunity and go and buy from other parties. Let me have your opinion. If you have any concern, drop it there. I'll be dropping the next video like a bomb. My name is Stella Suchelot Peters, your advocate for good governance. I'm signing out. Bye-bye for now.